everyone. Welcome to L3-AI. I'm so glad you're all here and joining our panel about customer experiences using conversational AI. I have an amazing group here of leaders in the industry, and I'm so excited for us to talk and for you to hear all of their amazing insights. So we're going to start with some introductions. I am Samantha Gardner. I am the manager of the strategic customer success team here at Rasa. And I get to work with all of these fantastic people who are our customers all the time, and it is a joy. So I am going to introduce you to them. I'd like to ask them to say their name, where they work and what they do there, their title, and maybe their favorite ice cream flavor. So I will get started with the person to my left, who is Bruna. Please, Bruna, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm Rona. I'm tech manager here at PicPay. It's a Brazilian payment method here. And I think my favorite ice cream, oh my gosh. I think it's any fruity something like strawberries or especially citric fruit. So lemon or lime, I don't know. It depends on whether you are in the planet. I think that's it.
Awesome. To my right, I have Akela.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Akela. I work with Sam at Rasa. So we work together in the customer success organization, and I manage the team of solutions engineers who works very closely with our customers to help them build their bots. I mean, we, like Sam said, we've worked with everyone on this panel before. My favorite ice cream flavor actually is the same answer as Bruna. I also like sorbets mainly.
Great. And below me, I will ask Lindsay to go next.
Sure. Hey, I'm Lindsey McCarthy. I work at T-Mobile, and I am the product lead for our virtual assistant that we put up for care messaging. And my favorite ice cream is probably chocolate chip mint.
That's mine too, and I didn't get a chance to say it, so I'm glad we're aligned there. And below me on the right is Heather.
Hi, I am Heather Nolis. I am a machine learning engineer on our chatbot products at T-Mobile, and I'm a huge texture person. So my favorite ice cream right now would be like cookies and cream, like something with a lot of little chunks in there, or anything with lots of almonds, but probably cookies and cream.
I also agree, having a diverse profile within the ice cream. Ben and Jerry's all the way. I'm with you. Okay, so my first question I'm going to ask to everyone, but I'll start with those of you from T-Mobile. Tell me a bit about the use case that your conversational assistant covers, or the multiple use cases, I think, in your case.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So we stood up our virtual assistant last year in care messaging. So we're focused primarily, or actually completely, on our customers and helping them with self-service. So we're looking at billing, eligibility for payment arrangements, surfacing account information, and then helping them find information on product and services.
Awesome. And Bruna, what is the Pickpay Assistant responsible for?
Right now, we have our assistant mailing to help our users that have any problems with us or with paying something that didn't go well. So we have our assistant to be an intermediate between our user and our human relation people. So when the user has any doubts or wants some information or has some problems, first he goes through our chatbot, so we can assist them with any information. And if this is the case, so that's it, and that's a success for us. And if it's not sufficient, or if it's something that our chatbot cannot handle because of the criticality of the problem, so we hand off the user problem to the human to handle it.
Awesome. And I think this hearing about the use cases lends itself to this next question, which really anyone can answer. In your experience in conversational AI, are there any particular use cases, including the ones you're both all of you are working on that are particularly suited to using NLP and using conversational AI as opposed to other methods of working with customers?
So I can go a little bit on this, which is in telco, we have a few things that are actions that people always want to do with their phones that are almost reduced to keywords. So one of those is unlock. Like nobody comes into, nobody calls T-Mobile and says, I'm having trouble unlocking my front door. They always mean unlocking a cell phone for international use. So things that have like these really distinct keywords and then a really distinct action attached. Unlocking a cell phone or a SIM card for international use is something that we can do, a chatbot could do, because it's a simple action. And so for me, it's a combination of those two things where are the natural language signals strong enough to actually create an intentive experience? And then do we have an actual task that can be completed, whether it's providing information or doing a single action? Those are kind of the two things that we're constantly weighing, because sometimes you have single actions that are really easy, but you can't find the natural language that's going to make them work. Or you have natural language that's really crisp, like when people are upset that their bill was increased, but there's nothing that our chatbot can do to figure out that because it takes a complex human brain to do. So kind of juggling the two constantly.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can also add to that when we surface account information to customers, so we have them log in, we have some API that's going in and grabbing their information and giving it to them in the chatbot. We tend to have higher CSAT with that because it's more personalized. It really feels like, you know, the experience is built for them, which it is. And customers like that a lot more than just, hey, go to this page to find this information and figure it out yourself.
Great. So my next question, I'm going to kind of lob at Bruna, because you all watching at home may have already seen her colleague Arthur's talk on the scale that PicPay has put into place, but everyone is always talking about doing conversational AI at scale. What does that mean for PicPay, Bruna? And what has your experience, in a sentence or two, been with scaling from, a POC to what you have now, which I think is like 500,000 conversations a day?
Yeah, we had this huge amount of conversations that we had to deal with last year, because we were helping the government to give the assistential aid to people in vulnerable situations. So I think from one week to another, we had to handle, I'm not going to say any numbers because I forgot it, so I don't want to lie to you. But we had to handle a lot more conversations than we had before. And it was a big problem for us that we had to figure out. So when we scale it, I think it's something that we can have our users to deal best with our product and answer fastly. So to scale that, we had to go into some technical problems and figure that out. So I guess that's it.
Akela, have you seen anything scale-wise that might help our viewers at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, there's so many different aspects to scale and conversational AI. Like I've been at Rasa for 4 years now. And I think at the beginning we're working with a lot of like smaller use cases, smaller teams and so on, but things have progressed so much in the past 4 years. Like of course there's the like volume aspect, like just having multiple millions of users that you need to handle in some way. But then there's also other aspects like, working with just big teams, like bigger, like in the enterprise, there's not just going to be one developer working on this, right? It's usually, product owners, conversation designers, NLP engineers, and so on. And so there's also kind of that aspect, like how do you build this bot together and what tools do you use there, which is something we're kind of looking at solving with our Rasa Enterprise product. And then in terms of scale, there's also just expanding to different channels as well. I know there's a lot of companies are looking at voice at the moment. Like how can you kind of have a similar version of your text bot and a voice experience? Like how do you tackle that best?
Yeah, I think you bring up a really interesting point about scaling having to do not just with how your assistant is received, but also who's building it and scaling that team. A team that I am constantly impressed by is the team Lindsay runs at T-Mobile. So Lindsay, this next question is for you. What do you currently measure when you're looking at your assistant, and what does success mean? And what are some things maybe that you wish you could measure, you're not measuring right now? Just the idea of measurements and success, how is that working for your large and super successful team?
Our team, it's getting a little unwieldy. We have a really big team now, but it's super fun. So we started the virtual assistant with one thing in mind, which is containment. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people how they can do self-service, offer self-service for them so that they don't end up with an expert, because it costs more money in voice and in messaging, both, for us to have a human talk to a human. And so being able to create automation and self-service is our key metric. And so we look at containment. And the other thing that's really important to T-Mobile and always has been is customer satisfaction. And so we watch that very closely. And it's really interesting. I think I've talked about this before, but there is some tension between containment and customer satisfaction, because when you're saying, hey, why don't you go try this yourself? Some people don't like that. They are like, I came here to talk to a human. And so there can be tension where if we provide too much automation, then we'll see some instability on our CSAT. But we just made a really big move over the course of the past couple weeks, where we upped our containment close to 10%. And the CSAT hit was minimal. It was still there. And so it's definitely something that we're gonna have to circle back on and look how we increase the CSAT. But it's nice to see that people are interested in self-service. And one other thing that I want to mention is me and a few folks on our team, we did some user experience testing with people we interviewed, and 100% of those people said that they were willing to try self-service if it was offered to them. But a lot of our customers in messaging didn't even know that we had it at that point. And so now we're offering it to more people and, you know, looking to improve that. But it's interesting to watch how those two variables contrast with each other.
And do you see any demographics of who chooses to self-serve and whether they're successful at it, or is that not visible to you?
That is not visible to us yet, unfortunately. Okay. Something I would love to get to. So you answered my question.
Yeah. And then for anyone on the call, what about success within, and this might be a Heather question too, but success within the conversation itself. So looking at confidence and model tweaking. I know Heather will want to speak on this. How do you look at metrics there?
Well, one thing for me that's really important that I have to iterate a lot is that, like, we can always talk about how accurate an intent is and like whether this intent should have fired or not. And that's only half of the story. You really have to make sure that the experience behind it is backing it up. So if I can tell a story of a metric I saw go wrong. Okay, so we had stakeholders come to us and they were looking at the outputs of our models and they said, Heather, I have really bad news. 100% of the people who have hit this intent gave us a bad survey score. So I'm gonna need you to turn it off because your intent's bad. And I was like, hold on a second. And I went through and I manually reviewed the people who gave us a bad survey score. And the issue was that they were looking to unsuspend a line. And our intent was only looking for people who wanted to suspend a line. So the answer was not that our intent was incorrect. It's that our experience wasn't designed to service a section of people. And we had to go and look at that. And so that's one thing that I'm constantly thinking about is like, looking at the metrics of intent and success are one step, but you also really have to pull in the experience and say, because for us to fix it, all we had to do was release a button that says, oh, if you're looking to unsuspend your line, click this. And it's a very simple design change that doesn't actually involve any modeling whatsoever. And so that's one thing that's really important to me is when you're evaluating the fidelity of an intent or how well it's performing, you have to remember that that intent is coupled to an experience, and that experience also needs to be scrutinized and iterated on as well.
And that's a perfect example of conversation-driven development that, you looked at conversations, you noticed that something was functioning in a different way than you expected, and you iterated based on learning that. It kind of brings me, if we're okay with going to the next question, because I didn't give everyone a chance to answer that one, but this kind of rolls right into it. So that was adjustment based on kind of an existing intent and how to fix that. Can any of you speak to what your process is, kind of product design wise, of determining what skills you might want to add or expanding the scope of your assistant? Is it always from direct conversations? Does it come from executive requests? How does that work for your teams?
So I can talk about ours just because I was just talking, which is
Please.
We have like our software engineering teams that are stood up, and then we have a conversational Scrum team that is completely operating separately, and we operate Kanban style. So we go through a little bit less of the agile overhead. And so how this works is we have people reviewing conversations every week. So anybody who's part of this conversation team is required to be in Rasa X for 1 hour a week, reviewing conversations, looking at false positives, seeing where conversations are going wrong and where we can improve on what's there. And then we are also involved in reviewing all of those survey scores that I just talked about. So and what we found is that whenever we get low survey scores, it tends to be customers asking us for explicitly what they wanted. Like they wanted a full Netflix on Us experience, and I didn't have that for them. And they told me right there. And so we spend a lot of time where we will get information like that anecdotally, and then we'll say, okay, let's pull the data and see how many people that this will actually impact. After we pull the data, we send a representative sample to our conversation designer, who then starts thinking about, great, what bubbles am I going to put into place and how are people going to respond to those? Starts fleshing out the flows. After she does that, she sends it back to the data scientist and we check it and we say, can we actually do this from a natural language perspective? Like, did you just ask for the moon here, which we can't build? And once we have that iteration a little bit done, then we send it up to Lindsay, who is like, looks good, looks bad, looks silly, please iterate. And from that point, then we can get our stakeholders sign off. But sometimes things do come top down. So we do have requests sometimes that are stakeholders saying, hey, we really need a cancel intent, and that's very important. But we find that by like constantly reviewing these conversations and having a conversation designer and a data scientist go through this iteration, we're able to get really high fidelity designs that are really based on the actual data of what's happening with our customers. And so we try a bottom-up approach as much as possible while letting top-down leadership also add value.
Lindsay, any other thoughts on the T-Mobile process?
No, it's fantastic. And Heather and our conversation designer, Amanda, they do a fantastic job. And, a lot of our success is based on this constant iteration, and we're a constant release team. So we're releasing every single week, sometimes twice a week, to make changes to our model, add new features, add new functionality. And when it comes to the top down, from a business perspective, we're also looking at bigger features. So, the Heather's team is doing the day-to-day NLP changes and looking for places we can improve. And then business is looking at like, hey, we want to add this huge thing. Like we want to now be able to manage plans and features. And so then we're working at that. That's what's coming top down. So both of those two things come together. And so now we have multiple development teams working on multiple things. And it all works. It's a little chaotic sometimes because we have so much going on, but our bot is doing really great and I'm super excited.
I've used it myself as a T-Mobile customer, so it's really good. Bruna, your use case that you work on now, as I understand it, was pretty driven by COVID needs. I don't know how much you can say about this, but was that what your team was initially working on, or were you working on a different set of skills and then needed to pivot when changes came into the world and to the Brazilian government?
We needed to pivot, but it was in early stage of our process. We were looking into our data of the conversations that we had human to human. So we were looking into the trending topics in our conversations, and we were going for that. So when this came up, we had to change everything and put everyone in the assistential and the COVID needs to focus our development, and we still have some of it, but it's mainly stable now, and we recently went back to our first thought. So we are looking now to our topics, or what we want to talk about, the features we want, if we want to integrate with other services that we had, so we can have self-service and not only answering questions in a fact chatbot.
Awesome. So the last topic I have a handful of questions about is about the future. So I'm talking both about the future of the assistants you guys are all working on, or the future of conversational AI in general. But I'll start with a focused question. Where do you all see your current assistant projects going? What are your hopes for their growth? Pie in the sky dreams for your current virtual assistants that you're working on?
I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so in our immediate future, in the next 6 to 9 months, we're looking at expanding to more channels. So right now we're in web and app. We want to expand to Apple Business Chat and potentially Google Business Manager or Messages, sorry. So that's really exciting. And then we're also doing some POCs on some deep search. So we want to be able to go out, index our support site, for example, pull back virtual assistant answers. This is an interesting space. There are companies that do, send back virtual assistant answers, but they're often really long. And so we're trying to figure out a way, like, is there somebody that can provide something that actually is conversational instead of like a paragraph of information? So it's an interesting problem. And then as far as the market that we're not in yet is prospects. So as I mentioned before, we're 100% with customers. There's a lot of opportunity on the prospect side of T-Mobile as well. And so hopefully down the road, we'll be looking at that maybe in 2022. As we change our system around and allow people to access the virtual assistant without needing to log in, which you need to do today.
Awesome.
I'm gonna add on to that with before I joined the chatbot team, I was on another team that we have that basically builds AI for the experts who are answering the phones and all your questions in a call center. And so part of my dream for where our chatbot goes is a world where those two can be married. So where somebody on the phone says that they need to set up a payment arrangement, and the person answering the phone can say, great, I have a chatbot that can do that for you. And they can hand it off for those rote tasks that we know that the experts in call centers hate doing again and again and again. And then when the bot's done, hand it back to a person. So that's like where I want to go eventually, is a place where we can have automated assistants come in and do the automation part, and still let humans handle the part of the conversation that they are incredibly good at. And so that's my, like, in 3 years, I want us to be there, but we'll see if we make it.
That is awesome. Bruna, what about your team?
We are thinking about now, we have a lot of plans to the future, but I think the most solid ones we have is to get all the repetition that our human have to do and answering our users. We want to take everything out from them. We want them to handle problems that are bigger, that are not, they don't have to do any repetition. We want them to focus on critical things and keep the automated things to our chatbot. So we want to have many more people working on that. So, and another plan we have is to have self-service, because now we don't have any. So we are working with another integrations that we can do in our assistant, so we can have self-service and the human interaction here, and then we hand off to our human to handle critical things.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to ask one final question to all of you, and I'm going to start with Akela. Akela, what is your dream virtual assistant able to do using conversational AI, either customer focused or not customer focused? Just your full dream. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think I am. Okay. My dream virtual assistant. Oh my God. I don't know if I have an answer for this.
Maybe what's the coolest one you've heard about if you don't have a dream?
Oh boy, I still need to think about this. Maybe somebody else has like an immediate
I'm
answer.
going to start with Heather has one, and then
I always have an immediate answer.
Great, please.
So there are a few things where I'm going to give a T-Mobile answer and a Heather personal answer. So T-Mobile wise, I would love to be able to answer incredibly specific customer questions, which is like at the brink of what we can do. But when somebody comes in and says, why did my bill go up by this much? I want to be able to answer those style of complicated questions without having to get them to a person. Would be my dream. For me personally, what I want is I want a virtual assistant that I can pass 3 chores and it looks at the weather and my Outlook calendar and schedules them in. Maybe also Google traffic, because like I don't like to go to the grocery store when it's too busy. And so I want something to tell me, great, I found the 3 hours in your day to do your 3 chores. This is grocery shopping, this is dog walking, and this is when you and Amber will go to the park. Amber's my son. And so that's my dream, is something that helps me schedule my life.
I love that. I want that too. Can we get that next?
we should. Let's pitch it. Let's get Care to fund it.
Yeah.
Lindsay, what about you? What's your dream conversation?
Okay. This is gonna bring out my nerd, but I'm a gamer, and so my dream would be whatever game I'm playing, I can go to my virtual assistant and I can say, hey, this is the quest I'm on. Where do I go and what do I need to do? And then it'll tell me so I can just go there or give me pictures. Like that would be so awesome, because now I have to, comb through websites, look at videos, try to find where the objective is. It's really time consuming sometimes. So that's my dream.
Let's use GameFAQs.com as an extractive answerer. Like you're so like we could do that too.
Oh yes.
I was actually also, now that you mentioned this, the game thing, actually, like I played a lot of Stardew Valley during like lockdown and stuff, and I think like I spent so much time on that wiki. I'm like, yeah, having a bot to just give me my answer would be so good.
If you play desktop, there's an extension, and if you play mobile, there's an app. The app is SV Assistant, and you can go and it will tell you everyone's favorite items and like what days and where to find them in their schedule, and yeah.
I think maybe we really do need this assistant, because clearly the back end is there.
Yeah.
Bruna, what's your dream virtual assistant?
I think maybe answering my Slack notifications. Today, I think that's the one I need the most, because there's a lot of answers that people ask a lot of questions that the answers are not really difficult to find. And I have to go to one place and another place and then connect this information together and hand this to people. So if I have a bot that I say, well, all the information it is here. And when someone asks me something and they go, oh, I think you need this data. Take a look at it. I think
you want that one
very
too.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, mine is something that I read online a lot and then never remember when I need it. And I would love a voice-based assistant that I can kind of call on in the moments. And I think Heather will appreciate this one, because she and I have some offline interest in parenting our 3-year-old sons. There are often TikToks or Instagram posts or blog posts about really thoughtful responses to typical child questions that are the kind of parent I want to be, and, just the right thing to say in complicated situations. And in the moment, I never think about them. I never remember them. I don't even remember where I read the wonderful idea about how to respond to a tantrum or a question about different people in our world. And I would love a voice-based assistant on my Echo device over here, whose name I'm not going to say because she will perk up, but to ask her in the moment, well, I guess Winston wants to know, why different people look different. What's the best way to respond to this, Echo device? And she will know kind of the kind of parenting I want to give and the kind of answer I want to give to create amazing humans in our world. Because in the moment, I just fumble and I never say the right thing. So that's my dream assistant.
On my list of side projects, which is similar in the parenting space, is a So Your Child Was Diagnosed Autistic chatbot to like lead parents through that first very emotional experience. So yeah, I like that we've both been thinking about parenting help from chatbots.
Hashtag actually autistic bot.
Right.
Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for joining this panel. Some of us here are going to stick around live in person in slightly different outfits because this was pre-recorded last week. So some of us will be there in the room in the L3-AI space to answer some of your questions. I know a lot of you in the audience are building customer-facing assistants using conversational AI. It's such an exciting time to be doing this, and we can't wait to answer your questions. Thank you so much to everyone on this panel, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their conference.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.